I'm Joseph Prahbu, retired professor of philosophy and religion at California State University and occasional visiting professor of religion at the University of Chicago Divinity School. I'm also a former trustee of the Parliament of the World's Religions and co-chair of the Southern California Parliament of the World's Religions with Ruth Sharon, who is on the faculty at All Paths Divinity School. It's been a great privilege for me to know Deborah and Andre Van Zyl, the founders of the school, and I congratulate them for this remarkable initiative. As I've had occasion to say many times, I think this is a pioneering attempt which meets a real need of students, and to be able to participate in this initiative is a great honor and privilege for me. So I'd like to start by talking perhaps about why I think this is an important initiative. Because it meets needs that I've been teaching philosophy and religion for close to 40 years now, and in three continents, in Europe, in this country, and England, and in India. And it's clear to me as an academic but also someone who's been involved in practical initiatives like the Parliament of the World's Religions and previously with United Religions Initiative, that the way religion and spirituality is developing in the modern world, it's important to have a mix of academic and non-academic approaches to questions of religion and spirituality. Academic approaches focus on the intellectual and the, on the whole, cognitive approaches to religion. But religion and spirituality are, above all, practiced, unlike something like philosophy, which is, it was practiced in the ancient academy, but unfortunately now is regarded as a sort of purely intellectual discipline, and therefore not one that has an obvious practical component. Unlike philosophy, religion is something that is lived. Religion has meaning and significance to the people who practice it, with consequences that are both beneficial, but also quite troubling and, in some cases, distinctly harmful and violent. And I think it's important to understand this broad spectrum of religious experience, but also in a non-academic way, where our feelings, our emotions, our practices, our very lives are brought front and center into the picture. And having looked at some of the courses and having had some input in some of the courses that All Paths has developed, this balance between the academic and the non-academic is, to me, what is extremely valuable. The second thing that I find very valuable and indeed pioneering is that many of the students at All Paths come to this online course with rich life experiences. Many of them are, without necessarily going into factors of age, have had careers and are now seeking forms of activity, in this case, of course, this online program, that has both personal and social significance. Personal significance in terms of what they see as the meaning of their lives after their years in the working world or in their respective careers, how they, with the help of some of the courses that are offered on counseling and on ministry and on world religions and on theology and on studying rites and practices, how they see this as impacting on their own spiritual journey in a rigorous way. I mean, obviously, people do this informally in their own journals and so on. But what All Paths offers is a rigorous program, and as someone who has been an educator for more than 50 years, I can't emphasize enough the importance of rigor and discipline, because it allows one to go deep into matters rather than simply being a dilettante or someone who is sort of merely interested in information. In contrast to the sort of short attention spans that our information age offers, when one goes into something rigorously and in a disciplined manner, one can go deeper. It's, if one were to use an analogy of light, it would be like taking a sort of magnifying glass and funneling the sun's rays onto a particular spot. And as we know, when we carried out this experiment, the amount of heat and light that is produced by that rigor is one that is extremely productive of a certain focus, a certain intensity, which, as I say, rigor brings to the study. So there's that which All Paths offers. And there is also the idea of how one can be of service, so that this is not just an individual personal quest. And as someone who has come to America from India and Europe and had a chance to compare and contrast the lifestyles and the worldviews of quite a few cultures and civilizations. One of the great strengths of America is obviously its individualism, symbolized by such great figures as Ralph Waldo Emerson and Thoreau. But it's also an individualism that is problematic, because it brings people into themselves at the expense of their social being, at their level of community life, which is so important in India, where I come from, but also in many parts of Europe, especially southern Europe. By contrast, coming up with a broad generalization, American life is extremely work-oriented and tending to be more individualistic, whereas again, broadly speaking, work is seen as part of a totality where family and community and relationships are primarily important in the Indian context. And I think America has something to learn from these cultures that tend to see work in perspective instead of this all-consuming priority in our lives, and also tends to see community life and service to the community as being extremely important. So that balance of looking at ourselves as both personal beings, which of course, and individual beings, which of course we are, and our individual creativity, and seeing ourselves as part of communities and families, is the difference between individualism on the one hand, which stresses the individual very often at the expense of society and community, and individuality in contrast to individualism, which says, yes, the individual is very important, but as a member of a community, as a member of a family, as a member of a neighborhood, and so on and so forth. So this aspect, which is highlighted in the All Paths program of ministry and counseling, has this dual focus of, on the one hand, looking at individual quests and individual spiritual journeys, but also the idea that we are social and communal beings, and that our destiny and our full growth as individuals requires a balance of both. One of my friends has sort of come up with the analogy of looking at ourselves as knots, K-N-O-T-S, in a network of relationships, where the knots, of course, are important in order to sustain the net, but the knot has its broader meaning within that broader network, because it's within that broader network that we capture reality in a broader perspective rather than as an individual knot. So to sort of summarize what I've said so far about the All Paths program, there's first this very inviting combination of the academic and the non-academic. The second aspect that I have stressed is the idea that it's both personal and communal and social.